Back in 1902, there was an American man by the name of Richard Henry Pratt. This man created a word in 1902, and that word was racist. The reason that Mr. Pratt invented this word is because he was an assimilationist. He believed that Native American culture had to be destroyed and that Native American people had to be brought into Western culture, dressed up like Westerners, and transformed into Westerners. He was one of the first egalitarians, so to speak. And he's actually quoted as having said, "We must kill the Indian man." Now, what he actually meant by this is that we must kill the Indian culture. He wanted to destroy the Indian culture and bring all Indians into American Western culture. And him, along with others, were instrumental in the success of this. Now, little did he probably realise at the time what he was actually doing is covering a penguin in duck feathers and then telling it to fly. But that is the origin of that word. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because the left today are obsessed with what I call weaponized words. And the reason they use weaponized words is because they work. They are words of fear and intimidation which produce results. The second one, which is very much popular today, you can hear it anywhere and everywhere, is the word sexist, which was coined in 1968 by a women's rights magazine. And if you know anything about the 60s, you'll know that women's liberation and rights movements at that time really started to go crazy. A very young word though, and for the most part only exists in Western culture and Western language. If you asked a Japanese person or an Arabic person in their own language, what does the word sexist mean? They probably wouldn't know. Now, the next word, very much employed often by the left wing, is the most devious in its origins. It is the word homophobe. Now, guess where this word came from? In 1969, there was a porn magazine, I think it still does exist, spreading itself throughout America, Australia and other countries, an international porn magazine called Screw. Now, in 1969, I think it was a May edition of this magazine, they started to use the word homophobe, the pornographers behind this magazine. The reason for this is because they wanted to create a new market of homosexual porn. But the problem they faced was that all of the porn stars and actors in the porn industry at that time didn't want to do homosexual scenes. It was very difficult to find a sufficient number of actors to do the scenes. And so within the porn industry, this word started to become dominant. Any porn actor or actress who didn't want to do homosexual scenes was branded a homophobe. And after a little bit of time, it started to work. And as of this time, a homosexual porn market was successfully created. And that is literally the origins of that word. Look it up for yourself if you don't believe me. Last but not least is the word we're all familiar with, islamophobe, which is absolutely in the same category as these other words. It can be used against anybody who points out basic realities of the Islamic faith. Its coinage is probably occurred very recently. It's only a very young word. In the last few years it's become paramount in politics. But all of these words are part of a fear campaign. None of them represent love or tolerance. All in their methodical basis, in their function, all of them are fear-based weaponized words. This one, for example, I remember when I was only 7 or 8 years old, in grade 3, I think it was. We were doing some athletic training in primary school, and every every part of physical education in primary school was pathetic. It was sort of pretend athletic training rather than actual athletics. But I remember pointing out in this class, because we were on an athletics track at the time, I sort of said, why can't girls run as fast as boys? And I kind of made a joke out of it, and the other boys joined in. Now, I was pulled aside by a couple of emasculating bitch teachers who gave me a lunchtime detention and told me that I can't say that because I'm sexist. Now, hitherto, this time, I had not heard that word before, and to me, as a young boy, it sounded like a dirty word. It sounded awful, and I did not want that word to be applied to my person. And so, naturally, as a young boy, I became afraid of being called that word, and so I thought to myself I should conform with this behaviour that they're asking of me. I shouldn't say that anymore about girls, even though it's the truth, and even though it really didn't hurt anybody. I was branded with this word, and because, as a young boy, or as anybody is, naturally I wanted to fit in, I wanted to be liked. Everyone has the urge or desire to be appreciated and liked. And I thought, to be liked, I'm going to have to stop saying that boys can run faster than girls. That's just an example of how these words, example from my personal past, are installed by fear, by scaring young children early into conformity, by literally bullying young children into submission. Children in school today are being bullied by their teachers with the use of these words. This one in particular, homophobe, is dangerous because it came from an international porn magazine in 1969 that was trying to encourage gay porn. And now we have the wide use of this word spreading itself throughout society, scaring young people into accepting alternative sexual orientations. Now, it's also very annoying to me, or for me, to be receiving a number of questions on the internet asking me, what's your stance on gay rights and gay marriage? I never reply to these questions. And to be quite honest, they frustrate me because, do you know what the annual suicide rate is in this country alone, in Australia? Registered suicides, 2,500 people a year killing themselves. And according to the Suicide Lifeline statistics online, at least 15% of suicides go unreported and unregistered. At least. Which brings this number closer to 3,000 people, Australian people, every year killing themselves out of misery and despair. Close to 10 people a day, 10 times the road toll. And you want to tell me, with this shit going on, that I need to take a stance on gay marriage? Why? Don't you think this is slightly more serious? Don't you think we should be tackling this first? And this isn't the greatest of evils around the world. There's far worse shit than this going on. All the misery, all the war, psychological manipulation of the masses, all the bullshit, debt slavery and so forth going on in the world. And you want to run around with clenched fists like little cute communists chanting about gay rights and gay marriage? I'm sure any reasonable person from the gay community would be embarrassed by your shit. That is why I don't take stances on that rubbish. Now, to sum this up very quickly, the word racist originated from Richard Henry Pratt in 1902, who was a genocidal maniac, an egalitarian freak who destroyed or helped to destroy the native Indian culture of the American continent and forced the Indian people to be like Westerners. The word sexist pretty much only exists in Western culture, originated from a women's rights magazine in 1968. The word homophobe came from a porn magazine in 1969 that was trying to encourage gay porn, homosexual porn marketing, and was successful in doing it by the use of this word. Islamophobe can pretty much, just like the term sexist, be applied to anyone who is willing to point out basic realities. In this case, the basic reality of the Islamic faith. All of these words, all of them, are part of a fear campaign. They all work to bully people into submission. And as I've said in the past, the only way you can truly be free is to detach yourself from the opinions and the judgments of others, especially the sort of people that are going to use those words. Those words do not fucking mean anything. They're part of a scare tactic. Left-wingers talk about the government's using fear tactics to control us. This is what those fear tactics are. You left-wingers are just carrying it on and actually making it 10 times worse than it needs to be. In order for you to really be free, you have to free yourselves from these words. Follow the patriot movements. Follow us. We're not trying to kill anyone. We're not trying to scare anyone. We are just 100% truth and reality. And for this reason, we must eventually prevail over all the fucking bullshit in the world. Thanks for watching.